The countdown begins. The 3 moons of Cielia hung like watchful eyes in the violet sky, their pale light illuminating the curved architecture of the science pavilion where Naira Telsek worked late into the night. Her slender fingers, each tipped with an iridescent claw, moved rapidly across the holographic interface. The blue glow of the monitors cast shadows across her silvery skin and reflected in her large, almond-shaped eyes that shifted between emerald and sapphire, depending on her emotions. Tonight they were darkening toward indigo, the color of fear. "Analysis complete," announced the system in its toneless voice. "Findings confirmed. The ancestral protocol contains deliberate genetic defects designed to limit Cielian lifespan by approximately 47 standard years." Naira's third eyelid fluttered involuntarily. She had suspected this for months, but hoping to be wrong wasn't the same as being prepared for confirmation. The ancestral protocol, the sacred genetic enhancement program that all Cielian citizens underwent at birth, had been revered for generations as the gift of longevity from their forebears. But her research proved otherwise. It wasn't a gift. It was a leash. She saved the data to a secure crystal and erased all traces from the main system. The Science Council would discover her unauthorized research eventually, but perhaps not before she could find someone willing to listen. Someone outside the hierarchy. "Researcher Telsek," a voice called from the doorway. "An unscheduled presence in the genomic archives has been noted." Naira turned to find 3 sentinels, the black uniformed enforcers of Cielia's Science Council, standing at the entrance to her laboratory. Their faces were hidden behind reflective masks that showed only her own terrified expression. "Enforcer Danvik," she acknowledged, recognizing the leader by his insignia. "I was just completing a standard research protocol." "At half rotation? During rest period?" Danvik's voice was emotionless. "The Council requests your immediate presence." The crystal felt heavy in the hidden pocket of her research robe. "May I ask why?" "Unauthorized genomic research. Violation of protocol security. Statute 7.3. The penalty is dissolution," she finished quietly. "I know." The council chamber was vast and circular, designed to intimidate with its towering ceilings and the 7 elevated platforms where the councilors sat in shadow. Naira stood in the center, a spotlight from above making her feel like a specimen. "Under examination." "Researcher Telsek," began Councilor Vex, her voice carrying the artificial harmonics that marked her as one of the elevated, genetically modified Cielians who had risen to leadership through biological improvements. "Your violations have been documented and confirmed. Do you deny accessing restricted ancestral genetic codes?" "I do not," Naira replied, her voice steadier than she expected. "But I question why such information is restricted when it affects all Cielians." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Questioning the council's authority was nearly as serious as her original offense. "Your role is not to question but to serve," Councilor Vex continued. "Your research threatens the harmony of our society. The appropriate punishment is immediate dissolution. However," interrupted another councilor, Marek, known for his more moderate views, "given your previously exemplary record and your valuable research contributions, the council has voted to offer an alternative." Naira's heart raced. Any alternative to dissolution, the chemical breakdown of her body while her consciousness remained intact throughout the process, would be a mercy. "You will be given 72 hours to surrender yourself to the purification chambers. During this time you may arrange your affairs and prepare for the transition. If you fail to present yourself willingly, the punishment will extend to your birth cluster," her brother, her elderly birth provider, the 3 younglings in her care since her sibling pair's accident. All would face dissolution if she ran. "Do you accept these terms, Researcher Telsek?" 72 hours. Not enough time to prove her findings, but perhaps enough to ensure her family's safety. She bowed her head in the traditional gesture of acceptance. "I accept the council's mercy," she said formally. As she was escorted from the chamber, Naira's mind raced. 72 hours to save not just herself, but possibly all Cielians from a genetic manipulation that shortened their lives. But whom Could she trust with such explosive information? The sentinels deposited her at the entrance to her living quarters. Your movements will be monitored, Enforcer Danvik informed her. Any attempt to leave the city boundaries will result in immediate revocation of your grace period. When they departed, Naira moved quickly. She had prepared for this possibility, though she had hoped it would never come. From a hidden compartment beneath her sleeping platform, she retrieved a small communicator, one not connected to Cielia's main network. The device was old technology, acquired through questionable channels. From an off-world trader, it could reach the spaceport without being detected by standard Cielian monitoring systems. Broker Jail, she whispered into the device. I require the service we discussed. Immediate. The reply came almost instantly. Cost is triple for urgency. Location? Northern Agricultural Quadrant, Water Recycling Station. 2 hours. Bring payment. No credits. Only trade goods. The connection closed. Naira gathered her limited valuables. Research crystals, ancient artifacts from her ancestors, even the ceremonial marriage cuffs she had never used. They would have to be enough to buy her passage off-world. She packed lightly, taking only what she could carry inconspicuously. The crystal with her research findings was secured in a bio-locked capsule that would destroy its contents if anyone but herself attempted to open it. As she prepared to leave, she hesitated at the communication panel. She should contact her brother, warn him, perhaps urge him to take the younglings and seek sanctuary with their distant kin in the southern province. But any communication might be monitored. Any warning might be intercepted. Better to leave them in ignorance than to make them complicit in her escape. The agricultural quadrant was nearly deserted at this hour. Automated systems tended the hydroponic gardens while most Cielians observed rest period. Naira moved through the shadows, her natural bioluminescence dimmed by a suppression patch, another illegal acquisition from off-world traders. The water recycling station hummed with machinery, its filtration systems processing the precious liquid that sustained their desert city. Naira waited, every sound making her flinch. You look nervous, researcher. The voice emerged from the darkness behind her. Not planning something unwise, I hope? Broker Jail was a Vexian, squat and amphibious with mottled green skin and bulbous eyes that seemed to look in multiple directions at once. His kind were rare on Cielia, barely tolerated for their useful connections to other worlds. I need passage. Off-planet, Naira said, her voice low. Immediately. Passage is easy. Destination is the question. Jail's webbed fingers twitched. And payment, of course. She showed him her collection of valuables. The broker examined each item with a small, scanning device, occasionally making appreciative noises. These would buy passage to the nearest transit hub, he said. But you need something faster, yes? Less traceable? Yes. There is a human freighter leaving within the hour. Captain accepts passengers, no questions. But he charges premium. Humans. Naira had encountered few in her research career. They were known for their unpredictability, their strange customs, their inexplicable ability to thrive despite their biological limitations. Will this be enough? She asked, indicating her valuables. Jail considered. Perhaps, with one addition, his bulbous eyes fixed on the crystal pendant hanging around her neck. A family heirloom passed down through generations. Her hand instinctively closed around it. This is not for trade. Then you may need to offer the human captain alternative compensation. Jail's mouth stretched in what might have been a smile. They are known to be susceptible to certain arrangements. Naira's skin flushed darker with indignation, but desperation overrode pride. Take me to this ship. I will negotiate with the captain myself. Jail led her through a series of maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the city's main thoroughfares. They emerged near the commercial docking bay where visiting traders were permitted to land under strict regulation. That one, Jail pointed to a battered freighter on the far side of the bay. Unlike the sleek organic curves of Cielian vessels, this ship was all angles and added components, a testament to human ingenuity and pragmatism. The horizon's reach, Captain Vance pilots it alone since his crew left 2 cycles ago. Naira hesitated. Why did his crew leave? Better opportunities. Or they tired of his recklessness? Stories vary. Jael extended a webbed hand. Payment first. She surrendered her valuables, keeping only the crystal pendant and her research data. Jael counted them quickly, then nodded. Wait for my signal. When the cargo inspector moves to the next ship, approach from the maintenance side. Captain is expecting a delivery. I am not cargo, Naira said sharply. Today, you are whatever keeps you alive. Jael disappeared back into the tunnels, leaving Naira alone with her fear and diminishing options. The cargo inspector, another black-uniformed sentinel, methodically checked each ship's manifest. When he finally moved to the next vessel, Naira slipped from her hiding place and approached the horizon's reach. Refuge among stars, Captain Riven. Vance emerged from behind a stack of cargo containers, wiping his hands on a stained cloth. He was taller than Naira had expected, with broad shoulders and skin the color of Cielian sandstone. His dark hair was cropped short on the sides but longer on top, and a scar ran from his left temple to his jaw. Most striking were his eyes, an unusual amber color that seemed to evaluate her worth in seconds. I'm not merchandise, Naira said, standing straighter despite her fear. I need passage off-planet, immediately. The human raised an eyebrow. Cielian researcher by the looks of those markings. He gestured to the intricate patterns adorning her forearms, symbols of her scientific discipline. Don't often see your kind slumming with smugglers. Must be desperate. I can pay, she said, removing her pendant. The crystal caught the dim light of the cargo bay, fracturing it into hundreds of colored shards. Vance barely glanced at it. Keep your family heirloom. I'm not a pawnbroker. He turned away, heading toward the ship's interior. And I'm not looking for passengers, especially ones with trouble trailing behind. Naira followed him. You don't know there's trouble. Cielian elite, sneaking onto a human freighter through maintenance tunnels, offering family treasures for immediate departure. He laughed without humor. I can smell the trouble. Whatever you're running from, it's not worth my ship or my life. They'll kill me in 72 hours, she said bluntly. They'll dissolve my body while I'm still conscious. And if that isn't incentive enough, I have information that could change the balance of power in this sector. That made him pause. Lady, everyone who sneaks aboard my ship claims they've got galaxy-changing secrets. He studied her more carefully. What's so special about yours? Naira held up the bio-locked data crystal. Proof that the Cielian Council has been genetically modifying our people to die decades earlier than our natural lifespan. They're keeping us weak, dependent, and controllable. Vance's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. And why would a human freighter captain care about Cielian lifespans? Because whatever resources you're transporting through this system, whatever deals you've made with border worlds, all depend on the current power structure. If the council falls, new opportunities emerge. She was gambling now, but the subtle widening of his eyes told her she'd guessed correctly about his semi-legal activities. You're asking me to harbor a fugitive from the most controlling regime in the sector. Vance crossed his arms. Give me one reason that outweighs the risk. I can't, she admitted. I can only tell you that sometimes doing the right thing and doing the profitable thing align perfectly. A proximity alarm sounded from the cockpit. Vance swore under his breath and moved quickly to check a nearby monitor. Sentinels, he muttered. Full sweep of all vessels. Someone important must be missing. He glanced at her with newfound understanding. That would be you, I'm guessing. Naira's heart sank. They shouldn't have noticed yet. I had precautions in place. Well, they noticed. Vance ran a hand through his hair, clearly weighing options. You have exactly 10 seconds to convince me you're worth the risk. I can improve your ship's efficiency by at least 30%, she said quickly. I'm a genetic researcher, but I understand biomechanical systems. Your propulsion system is hybrid Taurian technology. I can see the configurations from here. I can optimize it. Vance's expression remained neutral, but she could see calculation behind his eyes. And, she added desperately, I know the patrol schedules for this entire quadrant. I can get you through Cielian space undetected. The human. Captain sighed heavily. Get in the smuggling compartment. He pointed to a section of flooring near the bulkhead. Panel lifts up. Don't make a sound, no matter what happens. Naira didn't hesitate. The compartment was barely large enough for her slender frame, lined with some material that smelled unpleasant but presumably blocked scanning technology. As the panel closed above her, she heard heavy boots on the cargo ramp. Captain Vance, came a modulated voice, the artificial harmonics of a sentinel's voice filter. By authority of the Science Council, we are conducting a search for a fugitive researcher. Search away, Vance replied, his tone casual. Though I'd appreciate if you'd log your inspection. Last time Sentinels searched my ship, some valuable merchandise went missing. Your cooperation is noted, the Sentinel responded coldly. Remain by the exit while we proceed. In the darkness of the smuggling compartment, Naira controlled her, breathing. Cielians could detect elevated stress pheromones. If the Sentinels were using enhanced sensors, they might detect her even through the shielding. She could hear movement above. Systematic, thorough. Something heavy was moved, then replaced. Footsteps approached her hiding place, paused directly overhead, then continued. Your cargo manifests are incomplete, the Sentinel eventually declared. Container B-47 is not listed. Paperwork error, Vance replied smoothly. Personal effects, not for trade. I can update the manifest now if you'd like. A pause. That won't be necessary. However, your departure clearance is postponed pending further verification. No one leaves this vessel until secondary inspection is complete. When will that be? Vance asked, an edge in his voice. When the council deems it appropriate. The boots retreated, and the cargo ramp hydraulics hissed as it closed. Several minutes passed before the panel above Naira opened, revealing Vance's grim face. They're stationing a guard outside, he said quietly, helping her out. Standard procedure when they're suspicious but don't have proof. We're trapped, Naira whispered. No, Vance corrected. We're delayed. But your 72 hours just became a lot shorter. He gestured for her to follow him to the cockpit, a cramped space filled with a bewildering array of controls and displays. We need a distraction, and we need it before their secondary inspection team arrives with better scanners. Naira studied the docking bay through the viewports. The atmospheric processors. She pointed to the large units that maintain pressure and oxygen levels in the bay. If they detected a potential contamination, emergency protocols would evacuate all personnel. Vance gave her an appraising look. And how would we cause this contamination without killing everyone in the bay? Cielian biochemistry, she explained. Our research compounds include marker proteins that trigger alarms but are harmless to most species. She removed a small vial from her belt, emergency stabilizing compounds all researchers carried. This would do it. I just need to introduce it to the ventilation system, which you can't reach because you can't leave the ship without being spotted. Vance drummed his fingers on the console, thinking. Then he grinned, a sudden surprising expression that transformed his face. But I can. He moved to a storage locker and extracted what looked like maintenance coveralls. They're watching for a Cielian researcher, not a human technician doing routine checks. No, they'll scan you. They'll try. He tapped a small device on his wrist. Scrambler. Short range, but enough to fuzz their bioscanners. Just need to get close enough to the processors without looking suspicious. Naira handed him the vial. 3 drops in any intake valve. The system will detect it within minutes. And if I get caught? Deny everything, she said. You're just a human captain checking your external sensors. The contamination was probably from the last vessel that docked. Vance's amber eyes met hers. You're pretty good at deception for a scientist. Survival necessitates adaptation, she replied softly. Even for scientists. He nodded, understanding something unspoken between them. If this works, we'll have seconds, not minutes, to launch before they lock down the bay. Be ready. While, Vance prepared for his mission. Naira familiarized herself with the ship's systems. The technology was a fascinating hybrid. Human interfaces controlling Taurian propulsion, Vexian navigation algorithms, even some Cialian sensor technology. It spoke of a man who took the best from multiple worlds and made something uniquely functional. From the viewport, she watched Vance exit the ship, tool case in hand, moving with the casual confidence of someone who belonged exactly where they were. The Sentinel guard glanced at him but didn't interfere as he made his way to the atmospheric processors, occasionally stopping to check something on a handheld device. Naira began the pre-launch sequence as quietly as possible, bringing systems to stand by without triggering the exterior lights that would signal their intentions. The engines hummed at their lowest setting, ready to surge to full power when needed. Through the viewport, she saw Vance kneeling beside one of the processors, ostensibly checking connections. His hand moved quickly. The vial, 3 drops, then back to his tools. He was halfway back to the ship when the alarms began. Red lights flashed throughout the bay, and a computerized voice announced, "Biohazard detected. Emergency protocols engaged. All personnel evacuate immediately. Sealing. Bay in 60 seconds."